Hello and welcome back to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Dumbest Moments of the Week. Well, AOC has really been killing it in the dumb moments department lately. Not only is she trying to get a raise despite already making $174,000 a year, as we discussed in our last video, but also, AOC now wants the government to pay off her student loan debt. That's right, in a stunning showing of stupidity, Alex is unironically pushing for the cancellation of American student loan debt across the country. This means all the smarter, more reasonable people who either paid for their college by saving or working part-time, or they went to a cheaper school they could afford, or they might have even decided not to get an education at all. And well, all those people who did the right thing despite having these tempting, easily attainable student loans out there, well, we're all screwed now, and probably should have gotten student loans anyway, because now Miss Cortez wants to make it so we don't even have to pay those loans back. And if I was on her side, God forbid, but if I was, and I truly believed this student loan forgiveness was going to happen, I might be going out and visiting some banks right now asking for new student loans. Since, liberals think we don't need to pay those back anyway, well, that makes them basically free money at this point. Here's a clip of Ocasio making her case for this wackadoo idea. Take a look.
I will be completely honest. I will disclose my personal stake in this fight because I have student loans too. And I think it's so funny. A year ago, I was waiting tables in a restaurant, and it was literally easier for me to become the youngest woman in American history elected to Congress than it is to pay off my student loan debt.
Who said that running for Congress was even that hard, though? Sure, you have to campaign and debate and make a platform and stuff like that, and there could be a tough competition from other parties and their candidates, but that's not always true or necessarily true most of the time. Running for Congress can also be very easy, like if a longtime incumbent is running for re-election in an area where they're very well liked and have name recognition. Or in your case, Alex, you ran as a female minority candidate in a heavily Democratic area. You were a shoo-in, not to mention you had your handlers at the Justice Democrats doing all the hard work and heavy lifting for you. So yeah, I'm not surprised Cortez here found her running for Congress so easy. And meanwhile, back to the student loan part of this, well, paying back a loan of hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's pretty damn hard no matter how you slice it. Unless you just happen to have some rich friend or relative to pay it off for you, it's going to take a long time and lots of work to do it on your own. And people who take out these kinds of loans don't tend to have rich people around them to pay them off either. Otherwise, they wouldn't have needed the loan in the first place. Basically, my point here is that, of course, paying off a very expensive loan is going to be harder, much harder than AOC's embarrassingly easy bid at becoming a congresswoman for the Bronx last year. It's also worth mentioning more of AOC's background on this, because it makes her look even more stupid. She famously went to Boston College, a private research university, and in case you didn't know, private colleges cost lots of money to go to. Specifically, AOC probably spent around $50,000 a year at this school in tuition alone. And now, many years later, and she's pushing for legislation that will allow her and others not to pay off those loans? Well, that sounds like textbook corruption to me. And when you consider the timing of this canceling of debt suggestion is happening right after AOC voted to give herself a raise too, to get more money, well, when you put all that together, I think we can see why she really got into politics. She did it to make money, to cancel her debts, and all around, she wanted to enrich herself. All the while, AOC has the balls to pretend she's some sort of hero, a woman of the people who's trying to save the world from cow farts or something. What a goddamn joke. And shame on the media who are letting this woman get away with all this bullshit. Alex is such a media darling, she could probably slap a baby and fart on a veteran's face on camera, and the liberal-run mainstream media would still support her and commend her for it. And this is only the beginning of her stupidity this week, believe it or not. Next, we're moving on to talk about some of Alex's more recent blunders involving the southern border and the ongoing immigration crisis there. The first bit of this controversy started when Alex did one of her famous live streams on Twitter. Here's a short clip of that.
The United States is running concentration camps on our southern border, and that is exactly what they are. They are concentration camps. And if that doesn't bother you, I we can have, okay.
Well, I think the Jews who survived the Holocaust would beg to differ with you on this, lady. They were picked up and detained and sometimes executed, all because of their religious background. Meanwhile, people who are detained at the border now between America and Mexico, well, they are being caught trying to cross into our country illegally. That's a big difference and noteworthy. Not to mention, they're actually living in pretty cozy conditions down there, all things considered. The southern border detention centers are pretty decked out. People there get their own beds, hot meals, and even lots of entertainment, like games and Nintendo and TVs to watch and stuff. Not too shabby considering most of these illegals come from South America, some shithole down there with no running water or electricity. Also, the American government isn't violating this people and their rights at all here. They are being captured for breaking the law, and they're being treated pretty well, all things considered. But AOC doesn't care about any of this. She doesn't care about facts or reality. She just wants to push her left-wing, pro-unlimited immigration propaganda, because Democrats know the more brown people they let into the United States, the more votes they will get from them, and thus, the more political power they will have in the future. And while I of course oppose this politically, and I don't like this kind of election meddling, but that's not even the main reason this is wrong. Really, America doesn't want or need more immigration, especially of the unlimited variety. Quite frankly, we already have enough people and problems here already, so we don't need to keep importing more just cuz. And especially, I don't want to be importing more criminals from South America, like the ones who have already disrespected our country and its rules by trying to cross into here illegally. These kinds of people are not the ones we want to become Americans. And shit, they don't even like us or want to become Americans in the first place. They just want to live here and freeload and mooch. And that's why when they come here and land in America, years later they're still waving their old country's flag, despite them having to leave that shithole and coming here because it's better. These people aren't even smart enough to know how hypocritical waving their old country's flag is. So I say, we don't need them to stay here, all things considered. Next, in a bizarre follow-up move, AOC goes on to support a walkout at the company who provides beds for the children being detained at the US border. Alex's tweet about this reads, Wayfair workers couldn't stomach they were making beds to caged children. They asked the company to stop. CEO said no. Tomorrow, they're walking out. This is what solidarity looks like. A reminder that everyday people have real power as long as they're brave enough to use it. Genius move, Alex. Now the kids in those border detention facilities no longer have beds to sleep on because of Democrats like you. This is a new low for the left. Depriving children of beds to own the conservatives? Brilliant move, guys. Why didn't I think of that? And all kidding aside, only an idiot would complain about the living conditions of the detention centers at the border and then proceed to go on to make those conditions even worse by their ideas and policies and supporting this walkout. But hey, if these illegal migrants really don't want to be there, that's a pretty damn easy thing to accomplish. All you gotta do is don't commit crimes and don't try and cross into countries illegally, and then you won't get locked up for doing that. And just because they're often doing the crime with children in their company, in their party, well, that doesn't mean we should just let them get away with criminal acts. What if, say, a bank robber has a baby waiting for them in their getaway car? Does that mean they automatically get away with that crime when they get caught later? Because I don't think so. That sounds pretty ridiculous to me. And it's just as ridiculous to suggest criminals at the border should get away with their crimes too if they have kids with them. And I don't think Alex is really thinking ahead about what kind of carnage and terrible things this policy would cause. Let's say that AOC's wishes become true for a minute here. Let's pretend. That would mean that illegals that cross the border while having a kid with them will automatically get special treatment. They won't be put in detainment facilities and they'll essentially be let into the US without punishment. Well then, following that, the next round of illegals will certainly become privy to this new policy. And guess what? Now they're all going to start crossing the border with kids with them, knowing it will give them a free pass if they get caught. And this eventually will cause a number of other bad things. First, more people will come into America dramatically, which will be more than we can handle comfortably, to say the least. And this will lower our country's value and make our lives shittier. Next, more Mexicans will start to come in too. Ones who had previously not wanted to break the law will now be too tempted when they figure out having kids with them will give you a free pass. And next, and this is the scarier, worst part here. Next, more criminals will make or find kids to bring with them to cross into the US. This means bad people will inevitably force themselves upon women in an effort to make a baby for their border crossing. Or even worse, these criminals will just start stealing children wherever they can find them in Mexico or something. That whole area and countries on the way to the US border, well, they will certainly see rises in child kidnapping, all because AOC wants to manipulate American elections by importing more poor people from South America to vote for her and her side. Pretty disgusting. Finally, our last dumb moment for AOC is definitely my favorite. As the title of this video alludes to, AOC recently got caught sharing some pretty staged photos, which she took at the southern border about a year ago. Here her tweet says, "I'll never forget this, because it was the moment I saw with my own eyes that the America I love was becoming becoming a nation that steals refugee children from their parents and caged them. More kids died after this. To date, no one has been held accountable. We need to save these kids. Oh, boo-hoo. Of course, we all love children, and we don't want them to be hurt or anything. But for one, AOC doesn't really care about these kids. And there's not even any kids in these pictures that she took. And two, there weren't even any kids out there on the other side of the picture, on the other side of the fence she's by. This was clearly a staged photo op. Let's just look at the attached pics first, and you can clearly not see anything but AOC. All they are pictures of Alex trying to look sad or something. A little over the top too, if you ask me. She looks like a bad soap opera actor. And look at this one. They had to get this full body shot in so Cortez could show off her designer watch and $200 lady boots. And now look at this close-up one. I can't tell if she's sad or pissed here actually, or maybe she has to poop. And what we're clearly not seeing in any of these is anyone else or a semblance of a problem or crisis here. There's no children at this event, or at this fence, or in these pictures. And Lexi could have been standing in front of a random fence anywhere for all we know. What are we supposed to think she's seeing anyway? Illegals getting beaten or some shit? Because she's acting like she just saw a murder. But really, there's nothing on the other side of that fence at all. There's even been pictures from different angles of that day that have since come out and confirmed this. Alex was in fact looking at an empty parking lot. No illegals, no guards beating them, and no children or anything. Just an empty parking lot Alex was pretending was a cancer patient dying or something. In the end, this final performance is pretty fitting for AOC actually. As we've said time and time again, she is an actress who was hired by the Justice Democrats to become a politician. That's why she got picked up by them and put into Congress via primarying the incumbent Democrat and taking over his district in the Bronx. And now she continues to act, acting for photos and acting online and on her Twitter, while also reading the lines written for her by her handlers mostly. But as she often does, sometimes Alex likes to go off book too. And those are usually the times where we get our best dumb moments about her too. So I say, thank you for that, Cortez. We appreciate the laughs, but could you try and stop pushing your dumb politics for a little while? What do you guys think? Should Alex get paid more than $174,000? And should the government take care of her student loan debt, which is likely $100,000, $200,000, or $300,000? And what about her border blunders here? Do you think taking away beds from the kids was a smart thing for Alex to do after previously complaining about their living conditions? And what about her photos at the border fence? Are they staged and or are they as cringy as they seem to me? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.